Hi everyone. How are you doing? You know what? I'm going to try something new this week. Before we get started, I just want to let everybody know we are resuming our project classes. Our project classes are
Virtual.
virtual. Thank you. That was good. We're resuming our virtual project classes. And let me explain what a project class is. It's for the knitter or crocheter who has a project, shawl, sweater, sock, whatever it is, but you just want some help along the way. We do 6-week sessions led by an instructor, and it's a great way to devote time to your project each week. So there will be a link in the description box below. And with that, let me introduce myself. Hi, I am Lisa.
And I'm Cryss.
And this is AKS Knits and Crochets number 41. Look at that. Look at us. What a nice opening.
Is that what that was?
Nicer than usual. At least we knew we were recording. So, I'm going to start this week because I've got swatches. And I got notes. So.
We have an outline.
Yes.
It's wild.
It's not
Y'all don't
wild.
even know.
It's just regular. All right, I'm going to start. You guys know I had some drama with my outline tank. So I made one already. Finished front, back, sides. And it was ginormously expensive. So I've gone back and I have just re-swatched. So this is the swatch for my blue outline tank. This is in Berroco Chai. And let me tell you something. Don't let the drop stitches fool you because they fool the daylights out of me. When I initially did the swatch, it measured about, I would say 8 inches. No, it measured 6 inches. And then when I dropped the stitches, it was like 8 inches. So I steamed it. That's how I blocked it. I steam blocked it. And my gauge started out at 4.44 stitches per inch. And yeah, that's very precise. I take it out to 2 decimal places. So I, capture those little bits of stitches. But when I dropped the stitches and blocked it, I ended up at a gauge of 3.75 stitches per inch. Now that is going to make a really big difference in the size of this piece. Interestingly enough, it only grew a little bit vertically. So I went from having 6 rows per inch to about 6.5 rows per inch, 6.66 to be exact. So now I'm ready to cast on again with way fewer stitches. And I now know what's going to happen once I drop the stitches on the full piece. You look like you don't believe. Like,
the end is wild.
It's not that.
You need to make this a finger weight like the pattern called for.
Yeah.
And then your drop stitches ain't gonna be that expansive.
I know, but this will be so much better.
Okay.
So much better. So
she got this phobia going on at figuring weight yarn.
I don't have a phobia. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to. So, I want to make 2 of these things. So I went ahead and swatched number 2 also. This is my swatch in a combination of, I don't have to remember because I got notes. Go me. Cabot Trails, Trailhead Yarns Cabot Trail. That is the tencel that's given us this beautiful sheen. And Universal Yarn Cotton Supreme DK. So this was another one that changed significantly. So I started out with a gauge of 4.44 stitches per inch. And I ended up with a gauge of 3.44 stitches per inch. And this one, it didn't grow vertically. It shrank a little vertically after I blocked it. So I was like, oh, that's good to know. So it went from having a row gauge of 6.34 rows per inch to having a row gauge of 5.91 rows per inch. So it's going to be kind of amazing when it's done. And much quicker than if I did it in fingering weight. I'm excited. I'm excited. But go ahead, make that big old swatch. This swatch actually is even bigger than what I started out with. It was about 8 inches across, I would say. And now it's about 12. So after I dropped the stitches, it grew by 3 inches.
Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, it practically covers my chest now. It is now wild.
It is wild, and drop stitches are demons.
They just make for things be more interesting. But that's why you go ahead and swatch them, so you know what's going to happen. You know, I know down to the inch what's going to occur in my piece. You still look dubious.
I am.
I'm getting so much dude.
I'm
getting so much dude. Okay, what do you have for today?
So I'm still working on my handkerchief hem top. It's going to take a very, very, very long time. Because I'm working at lace weight, but it's so pretty. It's like so worth it, but it's going to take forever. I'm going to wear it next summer.
Can we see it? I do love how the ripple patterning.
So, and then I had the nerve to rip some stuff out. Ooh. If y'all remember last week when I showed it to you, I had the dark green and then the light green. You notice it's different now.
Oh, snap. I didn't. Oh, wow.
Because I didn't like these two greens like right next to each other. Because I felt like you could see how different they were when they were right up next to each other. And this is a little trick that I do when I'm like getting dressed. If I'm wearing a top and a bottom that are the same color family but not the same shade, and I think they're gonna like kind of clash, you know, like you have two shades of navy blue on. They're both navy blue, but they're a little different. I color block, so I'll do either a belt that's different color, or I'll put on a layer my shirts and have a second shirt sticking out from underneath. If you separate those two navy blues, it fools the eye and they seem to coordinate a lot better. So I had to put the ecru color between the two greens, and now they seem much more, you know, compatible with one another. So this is still my first square. Oh, I'm supposed to be making 4 of these.
Okay.
And this one's almost finished. But it's going well. It's very, you know, straightforward crocheting. I'm just doing, you know, a very simple little ripple stitch. I'm using a 2.25 millimeter hook.
Yep.
The yarn is Ito Gima 8.5, and I love how it looks. I love how it feels. I'm very happy.
Honestly, every time you pull it out, I want to touch it.
And so once the square is finished, remember it's going to get turned at a diagonal. So this point will form the top, and then I'll do shoulder straps. And so all the squares will be turned on their sides like this and then stitched together. I'm leaving like a neck opening and armhole opening. And I think it's going to wear very nicely. You can see how it just kind of falls. So yeah. It's going to be very nice at some point far into the future. But it's going well, and it's very simple stitching. So I do tend to do a lot of my stitching watching television. I was watching Halo on Paramount Plus last night. I was actually kind of into it.
Really?
I don't know anything about this Halo verse. I don't know what the Halo is. I think we're going to find out in future episodes. But apparently it's a thing, and people are looking for it. And it's not bad.
Is it like supernatural? Is it about
it's
angels?
Science fiction. No, it's based on a video game, a very popular video game. You ever heard of Halo? Okay. Well, if you don't know, it's based on a very popular video game series, and apparently it's very expensive. First, there are Halo books, and it's a whole thing. And so now there's a TV series on Paramount Plus, and I'm not mad at it.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's what my shirt is. Not even 1/4 of the way finished.
But you're working in lace weight.
I know.
Okay, and you're not making something that's close fitting. You're making something that's loose fitting, so you need more fabric.
Yes, let's list all of my terrible ideas.
No, but it's beautiful though. It shows off the stitches so nicely. I like that yarn.
I like it too. Look, I'm an Ito fangirl at this point. They have some beautiful yarns on the website. I was just watching a video. It might be Finnish knitting stories, but it's in English. But it's a Finnish knitter, and she also hand dyes yarn.
Mm-hmm.
And she just picked up some Ito. She's making a top out of it, and she does some nice colors. I'm gonna have to check out her yarn online, but yeah, I feel like more people, like I said, like all the yarn stores we went to for Wool Walk, I think only one of them had Ito. So I don't know if it's like not that popular or not that well known. I think, obviously if you're talking about Japanese yarn brands, Noro is the brand that everyone knows.
Mm-hmm.
So Ito is kind of like, in the cut a little bit, but more people should be talking about it because it's beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
An interesting fiber.
Mm-hmm. And then interesting textures to fibers you already know. They do some things with silk. They get so many different textures from 100% silk. I don't know how they're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them all. But yeah, that's how my current whip is going. I may have a secret whip though.
Oh, you're working on two things?
I see what happened was.
Oh,
let me tell y'all the backstory. Y'all know I did my hard currency dress out of the silk.
Mm-hmm.
LRA rustic silk, which is discontinued, and I'm still mad. But my mom was making a top out of that same yarn, and the color she was using, she wasn't sure she would have enough, and so it was one of the colors that was in my dress. So she asked for my leftover yarn. So I wanted to make something else with that yarn, but I wasn't sure if she'd have any of that color left to give back to me so I could make my thing. But she just finished her top. And so now I know I'm going to have enough of that color to just do my quick little something on the side. And I will probably be able to show it to y'all next week because it's going very quickly.
Mm.
And it's just going to be a cute little thing.
Oh, wow.
So I may have a tiny little secret whip.
Look at you.
But it's so fast that I'm really just like yesterday I did some work on my top. Look on Netflix, I was watching this thing, the Bastan trilogy. It's set in Spain and all kinds of terrible things are happening. And this woman, the detective, her family is a nightmare. And so I was watching that while working on my handkerchief hem top. So I got like some inches done on it yesterday. So I was like, well, I have a moment. So I'm going to watch a little halo and I wanted to just like start that other one and then things progressed. And yeah, it's like half done. But yeah, so next week I'll be showing you my secret whip.
Oh, fancy pants. Okay, I'll put that on the list for next week.
Y'all, why she make a 4-page outline for this week's episode? I was like, there's a staple. Like, it's a lot, but it seems very formal to me. Very official, as I like to say.
Mm-hmm. And she is anti-official.
I am. There's no, but like we're so goof-tastic. Like,
but did you notice I did not have to once say, "Oh, I'll just put that down in the description bar" because I have no idea what the piece of information is that I need. Yeah, we're recording, so someone's at the door. All right, let me get it. Keep talking. Oh, you know what? First Fall Mal.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm talking about the First Fall Mal. Yeah. She's micromanaging because the outline. See, now it's official. Now we must talk about the First Fall Mal. But if you don't know, we're starting to make along. Feel free to start your swatching this week, and it is just an attempt to make your garment for fall, the first fall garment that you're gonna make this year. Because I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I have been on a summer kick. And I have been using cotton and silk and making, tank tops and lightweight dresses. So I have to get back into, fall mode. My wool yarns are looking at me like, hey, did you forget about us? Don't you love us anymore? And I'm like, no, I'll get to you. So this will be our first time turning towards our fall projects. And you're going to be making a garment that you will hope to have ready for the first day of fall. So it is from August 1st until September 21st, the first day of fall. And I think that's approximately 8 weeks. And make whatever you like that's appropriate for fall weather wherever you happen to be. And you might want to start your swatching. You know what? Elisa has set aside time this week for swatching the first fall project. But if you want to start swatching on February 1st, on August 1st, that's fine. So get your swatch on, and we'll just be making a fall project. I will be making a very long length cocoon shrug out of this beautiful yarn that I picked up for a song at Premier Yarns. And as a matter of fact, I have some of it here. So I think I showed this to you guys last week. So it's Premier Chow Merino, and it is superwash merino, nylon, and alpaca, but it's chainette, it's light, it's lofty, it's DK weight. So my project will go pretty quickly, but I think it's going to be very light and comfortable to wear. And so I'm just about ready to start swatching my First Fall Makealong project. I would have swatched it already if the secret whip hadn't popped up. Is what had happened. But that's okay.
I'm not mad.
So you missed the entire First Fall. Is there anything else that I don't know? I told them the dates and stuff. Was there anything else we were supposed to talk about? Because
Hashtag?
We have a hashtag?
Yeah. It's on the picture.
It's on page 4. Oh, no, page 3. Okay. Where's the Makealong section?
It's page 1.
Oh,
I missed it. I was out of order.
What is the point of Lisa?
Hello. We're just cold later.
First Fall Mal 2022.
Man, we can scold later.
How are you making an outline and then use it out of order?
I missed. That's all that happened.
It was page 1. Okay. I can't work like this.
Don't worry about it. You got it. Okay. Moving on from a nice orderly
Lisa
show.
She is chaos incarnate and she never understands why.
Look who's talking. Anyway,
we don't have words later.
Got anything else?
I don't know. Do I? Oh, I do.
And that's why I write things down. Yep.
I can't. This is all okay. I got some yarn. I've been trying to be good with the yarn thing. But let me tell you what happened. So there's a dyer, Less Traveled Yarns. I have used her yarn before. I made a cardigan out of this special edition colorway she does called Slutty Pumpkin. So I made the Slutty cardigan out of it. Yes. Love that yarn. So I think the dyer's name is Sarah. And she has a yarn that is exclusive to her. It's called Acadia.
Yes.
It's called Acadia. The original yarn was a DK weight, and it's milled special for her from a farm that is, I think, local to her. She's out west somewhere. And she then came out with a fingering weight version of the yarn. And it was very interesting because the yarn itself, its natural color is a brown. And then she used neon dyes on it.
Ooh.
And it just gave these beautiful, rich colors that don't look like neon. They're much deeper because they were used on a brown yarn. But I fell in love with them as soon as I saw them. And I've been telling myself, nope, we're not going to do it.
Is that what you've been saying?
Yes, nope. But I'm subscribed to her newsletter, so she done sent out a coupon for 20% off. Well, I'm only human. So I picked up some Arcadia Lite.
And it's from Less Traveled Yarn?
Yes, Less Traveled Yarn is a 100% non-superwash wool. So it's non-superwash, it's non-merino. And let me tell you something. I was a little worried, right? Because I placed the order and then read the FAQs. You might want to do that the other way around.
Yeah.
But I read the FAQs, and one of the questions was, is it normal to find hay in the yarn? And the answer was yes.
Oh!
And I was like, what have I done? I'm not going to be able to wear that. There's hay in it.
Oh, okay.
But it turns out it's perfect. It feels very nice. So she only dyes these. The Acadia DK comes in a bunch of colors, but the Lite only comes in these 4 colors. So there's a brown. So I think she has color names on here. So this is the natural chocolate. So this is undyed. This is the color of the wool.
That is a beautiful color.
And then this is cosmic chocolate. So that's that beautiful rich navy blue. And then this is cherry chocolate, because it's that nice deep red burgundy color. And then this is root chocolate. That's the green.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But it just so happened that like these 4 colors I thought looked beautiful together.
Mm-hmm.
So they're their own little like palette. So I just got 1 skein of each color so that I could, combine them and make them. I was thinking a shawl, actually, because I haven't made a shawl in ages. But I don't know, it's a little plump. It's kind of a plump framing weight. So I don't know if I want to do a shawl. I don't know if it's going to like feel a little weighty. Mm-hmm. We'll see. I have no idea what I'm going to make with it yet. But it feels surprisingly nice for yarn that may have small pieces of hay in it.
And that's perfectly normal.
Yes.
Perfectly normal.
But this is what I got.
I love the colors together.
That's traveling. So here's her ball band. That's traveling. Her website is travelingyarn.com. 1L in traveling. I always forget.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, so that's all. That's it. That's all I bought. I told you I've been good mostly.
For the most part.
Y'all, I don't know if y'all schools did this in grade school, but sometimes our grade was either just check plus, or check minus. I've been check. I haven't been check plus.
But you know what? You haven't been check minus either.
Exactly.
So, you know what? It all balances out. It all balances out.
Sometimes check is all you got in you, right?
For real. For real.
That's when you do the assignment night before. It's check.
But it's done, right?
Exactly. So when it comes to yarn buying, I've been my greatest check.
So even non-superwash merino, it's still merino.
It's not merino either.
Oh, it's not?
Oh no, it is. Yeah, it's 100% merino. Yeah, and it's squishy. It's like, look at that. What is that? What's
That's
going on there?
The non-superwashiness of it all.
That's amazing. So I don't know if I can like come up with something that will like take advantage of that somehow, but
that bounce, that's because it hasn't been stripped of the scales and whatnot.
That's wild, but I like it. Who knew?
Some people consider superwash merino to feel kind of dead.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't bounce the way a non-superwash wool will.
This absolutely does. So I'm always like trying to try new things. So non-superwash is my new thing. But I fell in love with these colors. So yay!
I kind of like that over dyeing of a dark color with a bright color. It just produces a much richer tone overall.
She's going to be doing some where the base is an off-white instead of a brown. I can't wait to see how those come out. But these were the chocolate bases, and I like it.
It would be interesting to see if she does the same colors on the light base.
Yeah, that's what I do. I'm hoping she'll do that. So, that's my new stash acquisition.
I don't have any stash acquisitions at the moment.
She's so much more disciplined. I am not at all.
You know what? I have a lot of yarn to begin with.
Yeah.
So I haven't really been yarn shopping. And I have projects that I already have yarn for. So my, I got to use this yarn itch is being scratched.
Oh, no. Mine is the unscratchable itch. Like, none of that means anything.
Okay.
Because once you see the pretty lovelies dancing in front of you, you're just like, hold up.
Yeah, and I haven't signed up to that many dyer newsletters.
Yeah, I only get a few. I get Less Traveled Yarns Ching fiber, and there might be one more. Let me tell you, me and Ching fiber, we got a date with Destiny because cashmere, 100% cashmere yarn. I must have some.
But I can't wait to see what that turns out to be.
Me neither. I have no idea what it's going to be when it grows up, but I'm looking forward to finding out.
It's like I don't use as much cotton as you do, so right now I'm exploring the bast fibers, the cotton, the linen.
Yeah, I had the chance to use so many different cottons this summer, and I haven't run into one I didn't like yet.
Yeah.
So, but I was just saying when I was talking about the Makealong that, you know, my wool yarns are looking at me like, hello, have you forgotten us?
Right. Like, no, it's just summer, and it's like 100 degrees today.
And I'm glad that I didn't spend the summer making stuff that I couldn't wear.
Yeah.
Because right now it feels like it's never going to be less than 90 degrees ever again. So
we just got a thunderstorm out of nowhere.
Just like 5 minutes, and then it went away.
But it was 5 minutes of like real stormation.
And we're going to have thunderstorms off and on all next week, it looks like. So.
Oh. But
I'm gonna be in my house.
Yeah, that's the plan. In the heat, what? Because we're not hot weather people. It's like
you know, we talked about this once, and I was just like, if you're on a beach, somehow it doesn't feel as hot. I don't know what that's about, but like in urban suburban area, you feel every degree and then some.
Yes. It's not like we're getting any ocean breezes.
I'm trying not to get depressed.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Stroke your yarn. You'll feel better. Sometimes that's what I do. I'm like, oh, that feels so nice. So soothing. Well, now it's time for me to say, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. We're trying to grow our channel, and we are going to be putting together a new giveaway. So when we hit 600 subscribers, we will have a new gift basket, and I will start adding things to it next week. So next week I will reveal the first thing that's going into the new gift basket. Very exciting.
And now,
yeah, I got to work on my segue.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, you can do the next segue.
What are we talking about?
Oh, yeah. I have a list.
Why is it always like this?
This is why I have a list.
It's like we get such a case of the sillies right before we turn the camera on.
You don't know what goes on just before. Okay, it's hilarious sometimes. Other times it's just unsettling. Anyway, I was looking on Twitter this week because I'm on Twitter all the time. I am, and I follow like knitting, on Twitter. So there was a little discussion on knitting Twitter. So I'm going to pop up the tweet that really caught my attention this week. Let me ask you guys what you think. Now, this lady, her name, she calls herself Science Officer Stanish on Twitter. And she said that knitting is actually 3 different sub-hobbies under one genus. One is the collecting of yarn for the texture and possibility. 2 is the process of knitting. People just like the repetitive meditative aspect of it. And 3 is the completion of a project. Yay, I made a thing. And any one or combination of these 3 is 100% a valid hobby. So you could be, one of these types of people or all 3. Okay, you got to see Crystal's face. Let me take this down. What are you thinking, Cryss? Because I see you have thoughts.
I don't know about that. About like any one of those is equally valid. Just because I feel like, okay, we were talking about this yesterday, and there are certain people that I'm going to refer to as nuisance knitters.
Ooh.
They come to your group, and they're there for like socialization. They're there to see and be seen, but they're also feeling a way about not keeping up with other people in the group who might be like actually interested in making the things that they're making. And so they are a pain in the butt. they want you to do things for them. I've seen someone just hand someone in a group of things, say, count these stitches. What? I'm making my thing. Who's counting your stitches for you? Another woman just put down her project and started counting this woman's stitches. And I was just like, what is this happening right here? If you want to focus on just one of these things, the collecting of the yarn, or just like making stitch after stitch, with no purpose, that's fine. But don't expect other people to like stop what they're doing to slow down to your pace if they're doing something else. It's fine to just do your thing, but then don't interfere with other people doing their thing.
Yeah, that does get difficult in yarn groups sometimes. I've heard some yarn group tales, let's just say. And I think that that type of person is not in any of these categories. They're usually not that interested in acquiring yarn, because curating a yarn collection is its own hobby, as you well know.
With a purpose, though.
I'm just saying.
It just takes me a while to get to things.
You can understand those curators. Mom, I've been calling Mom a process crocheter for years, because she has literally been crocheting away, and we'll ask her, well, what you making, Mom? And she'll say, the yarn hasn't told me yet. She has actually said that. And I'm like, oh, okay. And we all have felt the elation of having made a thing. And some people just go from project to project to project to project.
But I feel like all three of those, it kind of makes you well-rounded, let's say. Like if you do them all, right? So you acquire wonderful yarns, and then you work with those yarns, and then they become a thing, right? That is the sum and substance of knitting or crocheting. I don't understand this idea that just focusing on one of those is kind of the same thing.
Well, it's a different hobby, but it's a valid hobby, because there are people that build extensive collections, and there are people that knit or crochet or as meditation, and they don't really actually produce a thing. So if you
you keep saying that, and I'm just like, are you just like water for chocolate? You just making a big old blanket that's gonna cover your whole house?
I was thinking of Tita.
If you're not making a thing, I don't understand what we're doing.
So for people who don't know the book, like Water for Chocolate, it was made into a wonderful movie. I wonder if it's still on Netflix. It might still be on Netflix. If it is, I'll link to it. It was about this family in Mexico, and the family had a tradition that the youngest daughter would remain unmarried and take care of the mother until the mother's death.
Well, the mother had that tradition.
Yeah.
No one else really got a vote.
Yeah, no one else got a vote. But at one point, the youngest daughter was very depressed, and she had been crocheting this blanket all throughout the movie. And when she finally is removed from the home by a doctor because, she's insanely depressed, the blanket is so long that it trails behind them as they leave in this horse and wagon type situation. It looked like it went on for a mile behind them. So I don't think most process crocheters or process knitters go to that extreme, but they don't necessarily start with a goal in mind. It might be just that the yarn reveals to them what it wants to be, like Mom says. Yeah, that's not how I work.
I don't understand.
That's not how I work either, but
like look, I like crocheting. I like the act of crocheting. I find it very relaxing. Unless something's going really, really wrong. But for the most part, it's really relaxing to just sit and make the stitches. But I still always have the goal in mind of like making the thing that I'm making. I don't know. I'm not sure I relate to what this person is saying, but if you do, cool. But I don't get it.
But I have seen all three of these types of people, and I've seen people who are combinations.
I feel like if you do these three things, then you are a knitter or a crocheter. If you're not doing all three, I don't know. I don't know. I guess some people have way more discipline about buying yarn too. I used to see people come into the store with like their pattern folder with all the patterns in it, and they were shopping for yarns specifically from those patterns, and I was like, wow. Like that.
Yeah.
I did never able to do that.
I've always wanted to be able to do that.
Yeah, I don't plan ahead like that. I'm very impulsive.
Honestly, even if I have like, oh, well, these are some things I really am thinking about making right now. If I see a pretty yarn, those things will go right out of my head immediately. And I will pick up I don't know, the jumbo ball of yak and mule that just impressed me. And I don't know what I'm going to do with this jumbo ball of yak and mule, but here we go. I have it now. Because it could be that insane. You know, I might have gone there looking for a worsted weight superwash wool, but I could possibly leave with, you know, super bulky yak and mule in a glorious color.
And I wasn't necessarily vibing with this one. So what were people saying in response to that?
Oh, every one of those types of people was chiming up like, yeah, that's what I do. That's who I am. And some other people were like, and I related to one thing someone said in particular, that her thing is learning new things. And that's me. I will collect some yarn because I don't want to show anybody my yarn closet. Yeah, I have been known to move from project to project, and I've been known to just work on one thing for eons. So I do all of that. But I think what my real thing is, because I realized this about myself after the fact, that I have started a project because I wanted to learn a particular skill. And once I got a grip on the skill, I didn't care whether I finished a project or not.
And when I hear you say that, I'm like, what does that mean?
It was like, I didn't want or need the thing. And I didn't know I was doing that until I really looked back and saw the pattern. I was like, oh, I just wanted to learn how to do this thing. And it's just like, you ever just lose all interest in a project? Like, I'm not interested in that at all anymore. And that's what happened. Or I liked a particular project, but I found it incredibly boring to knit. Like, I got this book. It was called the knit experience, and it was all about the knit stitch, properties of the knit stitch, and things you could make the knit stitch do. And there were some projects in it. One of them was called an Einstein coat, and I liked the coat. I did.
Are you sure?
And I started the coat, but it was so boring to knit that eventually I just buried it somewhere. I was like, ugh, there's a big bag with all the yarn in it somewhere, and I'm gonna have to ball that yarn back up and do something else with it because it's a nice yarn. But I could not do an entire coat of just garter stitch in a couple of directions. And I knew it was all garter stitch when I started it, right? But I didn't understand exactly how boring that would be to knit. So there's that too. If you enjoy the learning aspect of any of the crafts that you do, if you're not getting that if I'm not getting that out of the project, I may not be so interested in that project after a while. I'll make a great start on it though.
See, for me, it's always about the wearing. It's like, oh, I'm making this thing because I want to wear it. So I don't know. I don't lose interest after like getting past that new thing that I needed to learn. Because it's wearing the things that is kind of like the thread that runs through, you know, all of my decision making. So when I see a yarn, I like how it feels, or I like the color. It's like, oh yes, I could totally wear that. And then when I'm working with it, I'm like, oh, I'm getting this wonderful fabric that I can't wait to wear. And then I turn that fabric into a thing, and it's just like, oh great, now I get to wear this thing. And so for me, since I have that like overarching principle of, you know, making things to wear, yeah, I got to hit all those points.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like I said, I didn't realize I was doing it until a while after I had already been doing it. I'm like, oh, that's why I'm not interested in that anymore.
I'm trying to think. I don't think I've abandoned too many projects since I started designing things for myself, which is interesting because working from patterns, I abandon things all the time, just all the time. But yeah, that's another thing that just keeps me engaged. Really, the challenge of figuring out how to make this thing. So yeah, I haven't had a lot of like yarn orphans lately.
Well, yeah, but that's similar to you're also attracted to the puzzle. You're figuring out as you go how to actually make this thing happen. And I think that's really stimulating for you. You know, it's like, yes, I got it. Because I can imagine that feeling like, yes, I got it. Now I've made this happen. So yeah, that's not going to lead to a lot of abandoned projects unless something goes seriously south.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't really mind. Well, I do mind. I get upset when my project goes completely awry, but figuring out how to straighten it back out, I think it's like you said, it's very stimulating and it makes you a better knitter or crocheter overall.
That was the case with my comeback tea.
Yeah.
Because it was bad and then it was good. Like, but I had like once I had it fixed in my head that this was the thing I wanted to wear, it made sense to like go back to the beginning and start over.
And that's where I am with my outline tanks. I want to wear it, and so I'm getting motivated by that, and I know how to fix it. So here we go. Poo poo fingering with yarn.
No hate. Don't.
No, I don't
No
hate fingering
shade.
weight. No. You want me to tell people about that?
It's a long story for another time.
Yeah. Oh God. Okay.
What else did you see on Twitter, Lisa?
Oh yeah. So, like I said, I'm on Twitter all the time, and I got involved in another conversation. Now, this one was kind of interesting. I think, especially to the people who are designing if you're making your own things. Now, this woman, she is Bees in the Bonnet. I believe she's also a designer. She said, if your stitch pattern can't be graded, it may not be the right stitch pattern for the design.
And you talked about a stitch pattern that you said the designer worked for like a year trying to grade it, and eventually she sold the pattern, and you were just like on your own for grading
it. Yeah.
And I feel like it is the case that if you're making it for yourself, then that's not a problem. But if you're going to sell this pattern, people do expect it to be. If you're just doing small, medium, large, fine. But you gotta grade it. You can't sell people a pattern that they can't really use, because it's one thing to say you have to bring your own knitting or crochet skills to a project. You shouldn't have to bring design skills to a project. And grading a pattern is a design skill. So if the pattern can't be graded, I don't think it's appropriate to sell that pattern.
Well, I was watching an episode of Hohi Locatelli's podcast, and that's exactly what she did. She abandoned trying to make this pattern something she could sell. She made a beautiful sweater with an all over pattern of like ribbing and cables, I believe it was. And she had been trying for 2 years to grade it in so that she could have it in like 9 sizes with the same all over patterning.
Did she offer the pattern for free, or did she sell it?
No. She didn't bother at all.
Okay.
She didn't put it. She had put 2 years of work into it though. But it just did not work in some sizes to create that all over pattern. And I totally understand why. She was like, well, I can't sell it. But she had one on that was the bomb. It was the first one that she had made. But I did run into a pattern where it also had all over color work. And the designer said in the pattern, oh, by the way, you're going to need to figure out how to place it, because it was a ferrule type pattern, and it went all the way around the whole body of the sweater, including the sleeves. She said in the pattern, you're going to need to figure out how to place this on the sleeve so it looks good in your size. And she didn't even bother to say good luck.
No, you can't sell it. If you want to put that out for free or something, that's one thing, but you can't sell that to me. It's unfinished.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Without grading, your pattern is unfinished. So that stitch pattern wasn't right for a design that you're going to sell. It's great for a thing you're just making for yourself, but if you're not grading the pattern at all, the pattern is not a finished thing that you can sell to someone.
And I know that there's been a lot of talk about size inclusivity last couple of years. I mean, even Vogue is now doing all their patterns in all the sizes. Because I used to be a little appalled at that they would some patterns they would have in every size and some they wouldn't, and be like, well, you should be wearing this anyway. And I don't feel like that's their decision to make for me. So that always kind of pissed me off. But I think designers might think in different terms. I'm really thinking about ways to write patterns in such a way that you have the space you need to make the changes you want to make, because there's no such thing as a standard body. There just isn't. And if you gave people the tools they needed to make the adjustments they needed, I think that would make patterns much more. Look at you.
And no, it's just now we get into another area.
Yeah.
And that book you just bought.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa just got an knitting book from like the 80s?
Yeah, 1986, yeah.
At a used book sale. And in the foreword, the author talked about how basically she said that yarn stores have kept people dependent on patterns and convinced them that the only way to knit something is to follow the pattern exactly and use only that yarn, and that people aren't learning enough skills on their own to not be pattern dependent. So it's one thing to say that designers need to give people certain tools, but people have to want those tools, because what a lot of people want is just tell me the steps to recreate this, and they don't really want to have to think off the boundaries of the page that the pattern is on. They don't want to have to like go and acquire a skill somewhere else. They think everything that they need to recreate that item should be right there in those pages. And that's not what a pattern is.
And that's part of why people feel that they have to make the item they saw in the yarn that it was called for in the pattern, not just a yarn of a similar type and weight. Because that's the easiest substitution: similar type, similar weight. Just do that. But what if it's not available? If it's not available, then what?
Well, then the designer is supposed to tell you which alternative yarns to use.
That was a conversation that happened last year.
I know.
Yes. What people were saying, there was it had gotten a little heated too. People were saying there were a few people who were saying that designers should give a whole list of yarns that the person could use.
And this was in reference to price. Some people were saying that, these patterns often use very expensive yarns, and people would like alternatives to make the same thing in a less expensive yarn. And sure, you have alternatives. They're at your yarn store. Go buy some. Right? That's not for the designer to tell you. And one person actually said, well, I don't want to have to look for that online.
Exactly. And I was like, then you should go buy the yarn that was in the pattern.
So and the thing is, people have to want to learn and want to increase their skills. I mean, I think especially right now when the pattern marketplace has opened up so much, so that so many different people who have all of these different ideas can put their patterns out before people. You don't have publishers now as the gatekeepers, and so they can direct people's thinking towards certain ideas. It's a free-for-all. And so there are people out there who are doing some really amazing, some really complex things. I just saw this woman who has this reversible crochet stitch that she does. So on one, you get two different patterns on two different sides of the crochet. Wow. She's going to be teaching a class on it through the Crochet Guild online. So if you check the Crochet Guild's website, you will see that.
Yeah, I'll put a link to it in the description bar. That sounds fascinating.
You gotta learn some of these skills on your own. And now that all these different ideas out there, you can't expect every designer to be your teacher as well. Teaching is a different skill and requires a different fee. Okay, so you can't pay $7 for a pattern and get a whole course of instruction. Now, that's not a thing.
And it shouldn't be. It should not be.
So it, like I said, it's one thing to say designers should give people the skills. And yeah, designers should communicate clearly the skills that are required to make the thing in their pattern. So whether or not, they want to do an overview of that, like some people do, like video tutorials of a particularly complicated stitch or what have you, whether or not you want to do that, you should be able to say, well, this is the name of this stitch, and you can look up how to do it. And if you care to, you can point people towards a specific resource. If you know of a book or a video that's good for that, great. But I don't think the designer has to. We all have the internet, spread out before us. We can look things up for ourselves very quickly, very simply. We all carry small computers in our pockets every day. It's just not that big a deal. So designers need to be able to communicate effectively and let people know in the pattern description before I buy the pattern.
Yes.
You will need to know how to do A, B, and C to make this sweater.
Honestly, I could do without the story of how the inspiration came to the designer. And I would rather see a bullet pointed list
of all the technical skills
that you will need. If you want to point me to a resource, that would be great. But I consider that extra. But telling me that I will need to know how to do, I don't know,
a slip knit or something.
Yeah, slip knit, or if I'm going to need to know how to do tapestry crochet, tell me that before I buy the pattern. And if I don't know, but I still really want to make that thing, I'll go out and learn how to do that.
So I think, because part of marketing your patterns, it's about being personable, and it's about, having cute pictures on Instagram or what have you. I think sometimes more designers lean towards just telling you the story, the creation story, right, of their garment. But no, you really need to communicate on a slightly more technical level, give some more of those details so people can make, informed decisions about their purchases. Because it is very frustrating to buy the pattern and then afterwards find out that it is way above my level. It's one thing if I've decided, okay, I know this is challenging, but I'm going to learn these skills. That's another thing if I just see a pretty picture and I click, buy this pattern, and then I find out, this person has been knitting for 48 years and just kind of has been working on this pattern for the last 24 of those years. So it's a little complex.
And I would rather see, like I said, that bullet pointed list of techniques and skills than a level like easy, medium,
that means
or
nothing.
Difficult.
Those levels absolutely mean
or like they say
nothing.
on Knitting Magazine, tangy, piquant, or mellow. Yeah, that's how they phrase it.
It might as well be apple, orange, and banana. It means nothing.
So those are some things I would like to see, and you can see some of that on Ravelry. Although every once in a while something surprises you in the pattern, but Ravelry does do that. I have to check and see if Yarn Database does that.
I think for some people, part of the issue is this idea of like spoilers. Like you don't want to tell people what tricks you did to make your thing, but I think it's worth it to not have people like really disappointed and, complaining very vocally online about not having the information they needed before they bought the pattern.
Absolutely.
So at some point, you're just going to have to say, yeah, this was the skill I used. People are really funny about that, about like, don't say what the name of the technique was in a pattern, or don't say what the name of the stitch pattern.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, and the thing is, I don't think if you tell someone the name of your stitch pattern, I don't think you'll ever lose a sale, because the person who could just take the stitch pattern and recreate what you created without buying your pattern was never going to buy that pattern.
Nope.
That person already knew what they were doing, and they were just like, oh, that's a cute stitch pattern, I'm going to make a thing with it. That person was never going to give you money. So it's okay to just, not keep that top secret.
Yeah.
That
because I don't even like patterns where they describe the technique but don't tell you the name of it. Because if I can't understand how to do it from your description, I'm stuck now because I don't even have a name to Google. So tell me that I'm doing, a center double decrease in those words.
And again,
rather than
just
just
about
describing
helping to increase the overall knowledge level of knitters and crocheters so that people are more informed when they're making choices about buying yarn, about choosing patterns, about fitting their own garments. We all kind of need to level up.
Because you know what?
There's too many resources out there not to.
Yeah, and confident knitters and crocheters just do more. And they want more patterns. They want more yarn because they're doing more. And just as your confidence and your skills build, you build up to bigger and better things. Or smaller and more intricate things, depending on what kind of stuff you like to make.
So, I feel like it's a thing that not everyone wants to hear, but you got to learn some stuff. And I feel like we mentioned this before. But it was so funny seeing that book. And this was in 1986. Here was this woman saying the same thing. I was like, oh, this has been a problem for a while.
that forward was what made me buy the book. I was like, oh my gosh, no way. It's like.
And so the focus of her book is trying to teach you some of those skills that you need to be able to design your own sweaters. That's like the.
Yeah. And had I put it in the outline, we know the name of the book.
Yeah. Well, it just kind of came up in
not a problem.
Discussion.
I wish I had thought about it though. But
I remember the author's name is Ruth Ann Swepson.
Yeah,
but I don't remember the name.
You're good because I don't remember that either. But I'll put it down in the description bar
well,
if you
I
want to see if you can
Ruth
find.
Ann because we have an aunt.
True that.
We have an aunt named Ruth Ann. So.
But I'll put it in the description bar and you can check it out. I hope it's still in print because it was awesome.
You know what?
It looks like a really good book.
Thriftbooks.com. I have found so many, I guess you call them vintage now, crochet pattern books. I'm deliberately not going on thrift books right now because I'm trying not to buy too much right now. But some of the books that I found from the 80s were just kind of having a very different conversation about crochet. So it's always interesting for me to check out older books, especially books that, were being published before the internet and before we had those resources, seeing, how much they do share, how much they explain in those kinds of pattern books compared to pattern books today. And what styles and shapes and designs they were making. It's very interesting.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm a big aficionado of vintage crochet patterns.
Fancy. Anyway, do you have anything else for today?
No, I don't know. What's that one say?
Anyway, thank you guys for joining us today. Let us know in the description bar. Not description, in the comments. What kind of crafter are you? What are you interested in learning? And what new skill do you want to build this season? I think that'll be fun. Oh, and join us for the First Fall Mal. And the hashtag is First Fall Mal 2022. Go me. Yeah, I remember. Anyway, thanks, guys. See you next week. Bye.